break from the daily grind, looking to explore the castles of Westeros, but worried about the vaccinations, dangerous dragons, and overall crime and violence? Why not visit the land of myth, forest folk, dragons, and castles of Wales? Whilst no castles in Wales match the fantastic scale of Westeros, with few exceptions, or the actual film location of the walled city of Dubrovnik, the country does have plenty of castles to drop in on, and given the kingdom is only a couple of 100 miles north to south, you are able to visit all of them in a long weekend, with plenty of scenery, taverns, eateries, and dragons. Lots of dragons, the friendly, non-fiery type. And besides, Wales is a whole lot safer, especially after the whole Dragon Mad Queen Army of the Dead episodes in Westeros, and the beer is better. Probably. Entry fee to many of the castles is free, and all under the care of Carew, unless otherwise stated. But for the more popular sites, the fees vary from £5 to £10. The cheapest option is to buy an annual membership to Carew for about £50, and up to half price for concessions. Starting with a warm welcome and river run, home to House Tully, in the books it has a triangular-shaped keep, and whilst Caerphilly Castle in Dyfrys is the better candidate, the spectacular castle at Caerphilly in South Wales is a great place to start. Surrounded by water, it really is stunning. Constructed in the 13th century by Gilbert de Clare, it introduced from the continent concentric defence, multiple barriers, and at 30 acres in area, including the moat defences, it is Britain's second biggest castle complex. The enemy were the independent Welsh, who frequently interrupted building work, and it was involved in conflict for over 150 years. The castle was the main offensive military strategy of the Normans. It allowed a base of operations for these lords, or rather wealthy warlords, to control a strategic position and then use the castle as a base of operations to go out and terrorise the locals, and to take territory. Castles also offered a secure palace for the warlord, and not only dominated the area they controlled to intimidate the locals, but also served as a status symbol in their rivalry with other lords. Used frequently as a film location, most notably Doctor Who being close to Cardiff Studios. You can walk the grounds for free, and the ticket price is between £5 and £10, and it appears they have a siege engine. Ruined, moody, wet, on an ancient hill fort, and in the north, Moat Cailin, or simply the Moat, despite being in partial ruins, is strategically important for being the choke point between the north and south, across a desolate marsh. No castles in Wales quite fits the bill, because Welsh princes and the Normans that followed had little interest in defending useless swamp. However, Dolbadarn Castle commands the Llanberis Pass in Snowdonia, and its remoteness allowed for it to be a secure prison for high-value prisoners being ransomed. Built by the Welsh prince Llewellyn the Great, who controlled the princedom of Gwynedd in the 13th century. The Welsh, when subjugated by the English Norman kings, could still be kings of the mountains. Entry price is free, the car park is not. Harrenhal, cursed and in ruins, and the biggest castle in Westeros, being 3 times bigger than Winterfell, with a hall once able to seat 1,000 lords and ladies. Whilst no castles in Wales can compete with the fantastic scale of Harrenhal, there are plenty of ruined castles in Wales, but none so complete and cursed in real history as Carew Castle in Pembrokeshire, and which, like Harrenhal, is one of the largest castles in the kingdom. Starting as an Iron Age hill fort commanding this important estuary, Gerald of Windsor built the first Norman keep here in 1095 for his Welsh princess bride, Nest. It was a love nest, the keep being renamed the Old Tower, remaining as part of the structure. It stayed as the family home to the Windsors, they changed their name to Carew, for 250 years, and then the Black Death struck, forcing them to sell it to a wealthy Welsh soldier, Rhys ap Thomas, who had made his fortune by strategically changing sides and backing Henry Tudor, aka Henry VII, just before the Battle of Bosworth. Rewarded with lands and a knighthood, he extended the castle with luxurious apartments in the modern Tudor style. However, fortunes changed for Rhys's grandson, who was executed for treason by Henry VIII, who then took possession of the castle. In 1558 it was acquired by Sir John Perrot, who completed the final substantial modifications of the castle in the fashionable Elizabethan style, reconstructing the north walls to build a long range of domestic rooms. Perrot subsequently fell out of favour and died imprisoned in the Tower of London in 1592. The castle reverted to the crown and was finally repurchased by the Carew family in 1607, and then involved in the English Civil War, where it changed hands, the cannon doing most of the damage. You can certainly imagine this converted into a prison, and something you may give to an ambitious small council member who wants to get onto the lordship ladder. Certainly a fixer-upper, as they say, in property development. Entry price is £5. For a feel of the old town and citadel, then why not visit Aberystwyth, a university town where the young from all over the world flock to study under old meisters. Once an important port, with a high castle tower overlooking the harbour, with the old college dominating the town, although in reality its fabulous neo-Gothic architecture dates from 1795. The castle, despite changing hands between the Welsh and English over 150 years, remained largely intact, becoming a mint for silver coin under Charles I. The damage was done with a cannon in the English Civil War. On this coastline you can see ravens, and they nest along the cliffs to give it that real old town feel. The town also boasts a huge library, the National Library of Wales, and being a university town, it's full of taverns and nightlife, and being midway between north and south, makes for an excellent place to find lodgings, with plenty of sea view hotels. To find a real castle built on a bridge, you have to go to France and see the Château de Cennen, but it's not really similar to the twins in other respects. But with plenty of imagination, well, a lot to be honest, you can kind of see one in Wales at Monmouth. The actual keep is not particularly interesting and largely dominated by an army headquarters, which you can see on the edge of town, but there is a fortified bridge. Monmouth, on the English-Welsh border, controlled the main crossing point of both the River Wye and River Monnow. The bridge is what remains of the town walls, and unusually it's a bridge gatehouse. And in historical terms, it's similar to the fictional castle as being a key in battle, as a crossing point between the Welsh and English. Whilst there's not much for a real castle enthusiast to see, there are local castles like the Tower to make the trip worthwhile. Hornhill, the stately home of the Tarley family, looks like it came directly from Downton Abbey. Powis Castle at Welshpool was built by a Welsh lord, Owen ap Gruffydd ap Gwynwy, favoured by the English for giving up his claim to the Welsh throne, making it a truly Welsh castle. It's been expanded right up to modern times and has a formal gardens and country estate surrounding it, as well as a tea room. There is little in the way of description in the books for the Tarley family home, but it is mentioned they are lords of the Marches. The area Powis Castle is located in is part of the Marches, the border between England and Wales, which historically had Marches lords, and that included Owain and his descendants. It's a National Trust property, and entry to the house and gardens is between £7 and £14. Castle Rock, the Lannister stately pile, overlooking the sea and apparently never being captured, and sitting above a gold mine. I'm going to assign Caernarfon Castle as the most suitable candidate. It is still intact, and the English monarchy still insists on crowning their firstborn as Prince of Wales here. And of course it was built by Edward in his conquest of Wales to control the people, and the gold mines, of which there are several, and its other riches, notably copper, lead and silver, and during the various rebellions it was never captured, well, with one exception, just like Castle Rock. In the books, Castle Rock and the harbour controlled the ocean road, the Westerly or Sunset Sea, and Caernarfon likewise was important in controlling the Irish Sea route, where you can also watch stunning sunsets. The fictitious castle gets its name from the ancient inhabitants, and curiously Caernarfon is the Welsh name Fort of Arfon, the ancient Celtic kingdom. A Roman fort, which is also visible in the town, is known as Caerphilly, named after the river, and with that river being named after a Celtic goddess. The town has surviving city walls and is worth a visit. Caernarfon Castle is the most expensive castle to visit at £10. I imagine finding a candidate for a Welsh Eyrie to be difficult, given that castles were placed in strategic locations rather than on top of rocky mountains. But not only did I find the Eyrie, but also found the Vale. The River Powis slowly snakes its way across a fertile valley. As you enter this vale is this folly, a triangular tower, too small and too dry to be river-run. And at the head of the valley is Caernarfon Castle. Carreg means crag in Welsh. Cennen is the name of the river, which is a tributary of the Towie. Built by a Welsh prince, it has had a fascinating history, especially during the Welsh Rebellion. And excitingly, there is actually a cave underneath this limestone outcrop, so it's not hard to imagine a moon door leading down into this crack in the mountain. Entry is £5.50. Dinefwr Castle, originally built by a Welsh prince, is a few miles from Caerphilly Castle. Free to enter and a pleasant walk up from Llansteffan, set in woodlands and overlooking the River Towie, it makes for an excellent stand-in for the Dreadfort overlooking the Weeping Waters and Grove where the Boltons hunted prey, and then hung the flayed skins as decoration. Entry is free. Escape may prove to be more difficult. It's quite a long walk back to the car park, and you're probably best off parking in town. Castle Black has no suitable locations in Wales, although in the north of England, along Hadrian's Wall, the ruins of Howstead, remnant fort, and the partly reconstructed fort in Newcastle, as well as a wall, were the most likely inspirations for George R.R. Martin, but we will in due course find a substitute. Pike has no real comparison. You might be thinking of the Cornish Arthurian Tintagel would be the most likely candidate, and Cornwall is associated with its language and myth with Wales. But this fort's ruins are long gone. Chepstow Castle sits on a cliff, and its length suits the description of Pike prior to the waves washing great sections of the cliff away. It also doubles for Castle Black, given that it too sits on Arthur's Dyke, an earth wall and ditch, an early Saxon fortification and boundary that separated England and Wales. Chepstow was one of the first Norman castles built by a lord who came over with the Norman invasion. It has survived largely intact, evolving over the centuries to cope with new methods of warfare. The town has remnants of the town walls, and being near the Forest of Dean, which was an important iron-making centre, made it an important trading hub. The £7.50 entrance fee is good value for castle enthusiasts. Dragonstone. If you want lots of dragons, then Harlech is your place, sitting on a rocky outcrop overlooking the Irish Sea, which originally came much closer to the castle than in modern times, and a watergate and long flight of steps leads down from the castle to the former shore that allowed the castle to be resupplied during sieges, which in your mind's eye allows you to sweep away the caravan sites and modern development. Although built as part of Edward's war against the Welsh, the castle fell into Welsh hands during Owen Glendower's rebellion in 1400 and became his base and palace. Owen revived the dragon of Eartha Pendragon, although with so many gift shops in Harlech, you'll see the dragon and the Welsh flag everywhere. Harlech also has the world's steepest street. This is contested, but you can try walking up it yourself and making your own decision. 4 miles north of Harlech is Portmeirion, a rather strange village that could double up as the Water Garden of Dawn, and featured in the 60s TV series The Prisoner, but a hefty entrance price of £12.
No sunflowers. I don't like yellow. Roses are very nice, definitely roses. And music, I adore music, but no flutes. I hate flutes. We can have a harp if you like, but no flutes. Then there's the food. Food is the most important thing, don't you agree? We're going to need pigeon pies. That's what they eat in the capital, don't they? Don't they?
Don't who?
People eat pigeon pie in the capital.
They certainly do, my dear. They certainly do. It's a fine place, isn't it? A fine place.
Castle Stokeworth. It may not have the most impenetrable walls, or prettiest ladies in the realm, and that lady may not be directly in line to inherit the castle, but as Bronn says, when it comes to her older sister, accidents do happen. Especially to people who pull their sister's hair. Manorbier, like Stokeworth, has lovely views overlooking the sea, and throughout its life it was always just a little off the beaten track to be fought over. Gerald of Wales, a writer of the 12th century, wrote of the place, "In all the broad lands of Wales, Manorbier is the most pleasant place by far." But he was born there, so slightly biased. You can visit and even get married there if you fancy yourself as Sir Bronn or Lady Lollies. You really can have a fairy tale wedding. The castle is privately owned and entrance is around £5. Bear Island. For compact and cosy, Beaumaris Castle on Anglesey makes for a good substitute for the home of House Mormont. Although the castle is in a far more chic part of the kingdom, you will be surprised just how posh this part of Anglesey is with its hotels, cocktail taverns and eateries. There may not be any waterfalls, but at least it's on an island. In fact, it's the only castle on an island in Wales. And it once did have bears and druids, the island, according to the Romans, being the original Godswood with its sacred groves. Entry price is £5.50. Highgarden, home to House Tyrrell, and the castle further south in Westeros amid a briar maze to resist invaders. Selecting Llansteffan Castle is a bit of a stretch, but it's worth a visit and entry is free. It does have lovely sea views, so not geographically correct as a substitute, but like the fictional Highgarden, does have concentric rings of a much older Iron Age defences. It's quite far south, so the last place for summer to leave, and being coastal and influenced by the Gulf Stream, the winters are mild and the gardens of the nearby village of Llansteffan are rich with subtropical plants. Tower of Joy, in the northern edge of the Red Mountains of Dawn, located at the north end of the Prince's Pass. In the books it's a round tower. In Game of Thrones it's a square one. If you want to be true to the books, you can visit the well-preserved tower in Bronllys. Entry is free. For a castle that fits the spirit of being in a pass with Snowdonian mountains as a backdrop, Castle Dolwyddelan is a perfect match. Built originally by a Welsh prince, it was captured by the English, who used it to guard this mountain pass. Entry is about £2.50. In the books, Winterfell is huge, supposedly having walls 100 feet high, and it seems likely its description is based on Caernarfon in southern France, with its double battlements and huge lookout tower, and which appeared in the exterior of Nottingham Castle in the 1991 movie Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which coincides with when George R.R. Martin started writing Song of Ice and Fire. I'm guessing the 100 feet high battlements is an overestimation. 30 feet is plenty tall, and people tend to overestimate height in my experience. A splendid substitute is Kidwelly Castle. It used to have its own town and walls, but only the gatehouse survives, and features as Camelot in the Monty Python and the Holy Grail film. It is also associated with a Celtic warrior princess, Gwenllian Griffith, who in the early 12th century led her army to defeat the English on several occasions, although in battle here at Kidwelly, her forces were routed and she was captured and later beheaded. Entrance fee is £5. King's Landing in the Red Keep is huge and supposedly had a population of 500,000, which would have matched the greatest city in the medieval world, Constantinople. London was provincial in comparison, having only 80,000 inhabitants, which were reduced by half during the Black Death. You can of course visit the walled town of Dubrovnik in Croatia, which was used as a film location, but there's a good candidate in Wales, Conwy. And it has complete town walls. They are not quite as long, being just under a mile rather than nearly a mile and a half in Dubrovnik, and the motor car has had its impact on the town. But like King's Landing, the town is on the coast next to a river and has a small working harbour. And nestled among the streets are medieval buildings and Britain's smallest house. Conwy was a jewel in Edward's ring of iron to subjugate the Welsh, and cost the most at £15,000. To give an idea of the extraordinary cost, the average lord would have had the princely sum of around £500 a year. Entrance fee £9. So I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed filming it. Wales is a fabulous country. If you agree or disagree with my choices, please leave a comment. A big thanks to CO.AG Music for the soundtrack, a link in the description to his channel, and of course a massive thanks to my producers. If you want to see more of this kind of video, hit the like, subscribe, and consider being a producer through Patreon.